right.
Alrighty. Welcome to episode 3 of whatever the hell we're going to call this podcast.
Soon to be titled
something. I was thinking we could call it, like, On the Lot. You know, like, because there's, like, a studio lot. We're in a parking lot.
We're doing fresh takes right after we see the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
From the lot, something like that. We'll come up with... We're going through a rebrand with our fucking parent company. It's going to be pretty sweet. Big stuff coming soon. We just saw The Whale.
Yes.
And here to talk about it, as always, is myself, Josh Loney, and William Hammond.
Hello.
Film buff extraordinaire. What were your...
Initial thoughts?
Yeah. We literally have not talked about it since we left the theater. I've kept my mouth shut, which anyone who knows me knows is a rarity.
So my initial thoughts, you know, it's pretty fucking sad. It's kind of grueling to get through, I think, at certain points. Brendan Fraser's performance is off the chart. I think he did great. I thought it was pretty good, all in all. But I don't think it's my favorite Aronofsky movie, and I don't know how many times I would watch that either. You know, but
yeah.
But I did think it was good. I was also very happy it ended when it did, because I was kind of getting to a point with it where I was like, all right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, do we get to Saturday?
Yeah, do we have to go all the way to Sunday? Do we have to just keep watching the everyday life of
make it to the Jewish Sabbath?
Man? Yeah, just actively killing himself. I felt, and I don't want to sound too cynical or sound like an asshole, but you kind of sponsored by Coast Smokes.
We are indeed sponsored by Coast Smokes.
I think you do feel sorry for Brendan Fraser's character. I mean, I felt some sympathy for him. I also, was just like, man, you lost someone that you loved, a traumatic event happened in your life, but then you've actively just seemed to have given up on life, and I mean, his character's pretty fucking gross, man. On the one hand, like it's yeah, I think I don't want to sound like an asshole, but at the same time, you're just watching a guy who's chosen to give up, and he's...
Well, it's really a film about addiction,
Yeah, I mean...
Which is why it's funny that we're imbibing in drugs right now. But, and it also says, not only with that, the motif of the essay, about Moby Dick, from which the film takes its name, and how, but also his little opening monologue, it kind of reinforces, like, hey, this is supposed to make you think about your own life, right?
Definitely.
And then they give you this extraordinarily sad and sympathetic character, and he is sympathetic in that, not only have they given him the requisite Hollywood establishment, minority character, he's gay, he's oppressed, right? So now the Academy's gonna love it for sure. But beyond that, I think that's almost sometimes what you see these days is you see people putting almost like money in the bank so that they can make a withdrawal of some other kind, right? You'll see people will state their bona fides or something, you know what I mean? Just so that you'll then listen to them. It's almost like, okay, here's something Hollywood will love. Now here's a movie about addiction and how very disgusting severe obesity really is. They don't shy away from it at all.
No, they don't. They don't pull any punches with it. And every time you see him eat, it's
hard to watch.
It is, very cringy, and actually, the true sense of the word, you don't want to see that shit, and you're just watching this guy every single day actively kill himself.
Yeah.
He's given up on life, and I mean, I think it's interesting the amount of times that they go to the fact that, you could go to the hospital,
And he never wants to go.
He never wants to go, and then when you find out, because and of course they hammer home, kind of early on, the health insurance is expensive, that sort of angle, and again, it very much is like this guy is obviously not really trying, but then when you find out that homeboy's actually stacked quite a bit of cash, and
he felt the best thing he could do. Oh, spoilers! If you don't know that there's spoilers,
sorry,
fuck you.
Yeah,
like if I think that with a movie of this caliber, it's not really there's no mystery. It's not a whodunit, like oh my god. But yeah, it turns out, I think that he felt the best thing he could do is just to not be around, period, because he was rejected by, well, he rejected his family, I guess, but like he has this self-loathing.
Yeah,
right?
It's intense self-loathing, and it's it's like, man, all these choices you've actively made in your life, to lead you to this reclusive, morbidly obese lifestyle, right? Like,
well, I love how he's a good teacher, in that he's the kind of teacher you actually want. His occupation is as a college professor. He doesn't ever turn on the camera because he's aware that he looks off-putting, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
And I think he thinks, and he rightly so, that people are more likely to actually listen to him if they don't know that he looks like he does.
It's probably a good call on his part, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think so.
It's but like at the end, I like how the college kids all complain about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, which is a really good, I think. There's a couple little political just nuggets in there that I thought were interesting, right? Like they intentionally set this movie in like 2015, 2016, whenever the hell the primaries were happening.
Yeah, that's at one point when she's I think when she's on the computer or when she's on her phone, you see the date, and it's like March of 2016, or it was either 3 or 8 in 2016. Yeah, so it's March or August, and you see him watching one of the debates, right?
Or they're watching the news.
They're watching the news, talking about
the
campaigns,
and it's like you kind of wonder at the start, like, why did he choose to set it in that time, which is obviously the most contentious and splitting time in like fractious time for American society in recent memory, right? Like, people, in my opinion, are as traumatized by like 2016 as 9/11, like much more than, like, they try to make, we're not a political show, but they try to make it about January 6th. That's not what traumatized anybody, in my opinion. I think it's 2016, the election itself.
Yeah, I think it broke a lot of people's brains.
Yeah, well, you saw the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And that he's not a fucking wizard.
Yeah.
He's a fat, orange asshole from New York, or a sociopathic, like, dystopian villain. And you're just like, oh, we're fucked. And still everyone chose a side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not actually sure still what exactly he was trying to get at there. That I'll have to think about it. But I do think that he's saying something about America with the film, which is it's a nation of addicts, lacking spiritual fulfillment and meaning, right? Like, his fulfillment as a father is he denied himself, right? There's this idea that, like, the church denies people love by not, enabling him to be gay, right?
Yeah.
And I think that once again, you're putting some money in the bank, so, like, certain person's gonna listen, and then you've got, like, the, like, obesity and addiction thing, so that another set of people will listen. And then there's a really, I think, interesting spiritual message, because Aronofsky is obviously a spiritual person, right? He made Noah,
Oh yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
So he must be spiritual in some sense. I mean, I think he's probably done a lot of DMT based on the movie Noah.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, whoa. It's a very shockingly psychedelic movie.
It's been a while since I've seen that one.
But like, I think that the idea that like there's like a good, probably the most redemptive character in it is the spiritual character. Like, he's the only one who has an actually positive attitude. Like, Brendan Fraser has this kind of like positivity as a defense, as a coping mechanism, as a way to avoid actual contact with his issues and with reality, right? Yeah. And the missionary, I forget his actual name, the missionary character, he's like...
Is it Thomas?
I think it is Thomas. He actually, I think, believes, like, turns out he's not even being told to be there. He weirdly just felt compelled to show up.
Yeah,
there.
he did feel, like you said, compelled to help.
Well, it's like, how did he know about this person? I don't, like, did he just walk to a random door? It's not really clear.
Right, it's not. I mean, yeah, because, they established that, like, his cover of saying that he was going door to door for the New Life Church is actually not true, because that specific church hasn't done door to doors in a couple years.
Right.
So yeah, it's like, so what exactly brought him to Brendan Fraser's home?
Well, and when he gets interrogated about this by the daughter character, there's almost this, they intentionally leave it very vague. He tells his story and then he ends up here. There's no in between, though, right? He steals the money from his parish to go on his own mission. There's no explanation of why he ends up at that doorstep,
Right.
And he shows up, of course, at a time of...
An opportune time.
Potentially divine providence, right? Where it's right as, like, basically Brendan Fraser's heart failure begins.
I mean, you...
And it begins with an orgasm, by the way.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like, you're sort of in for this ride when you immediately see this grotesquely fat man jerking off.
First image.
First image, just jerking it in a chair, and then comes, and his heart almost completely just fucking goes out on him immediately. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh shit, this guy's about to die. And it's like, this is literally just a Monday for this guy right now, right? Because that wasn't, starts with Monday as the caption. And
well, it's like, let's be real, he knew he was dying. For years.
Yeah.
But it's just that once they're like, oh my god, you have congenital heart failure, and you go to the hospital.
When she tells him his heart rate, it's like 230 something over
238 over 134 or something.
Yeah, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, that's...
Well, and dude, I mean, to look at the guy, it is hard. But the thing is, dude, there really is an obesity problem in America.
Oh, there absolutely is. And, I mean, of course, like, that's... You're watching the movie, and you're like, clearly he's making a point. He's speaking to that as well in this film, because, I mean,
it's the most visual and visually obvious form of addiction, right? Like, the more you eat, the bigger you get. It's like Pinocchio's nose. Like, there's no hiding your addiction if you are addicted to food.
No, yeah. I mean, it's...
Really. Unless you're bulimic. But then that's a separate addiction.
Being in LA for like 14 years and not going back to the South or been in the Midwest that much, like, whenever I would go back, it's shocking because you kind of forget just how overweight most of the country is,
It's depressing, dude.
And in LA, it's you really just sort of get, it's like, oh, these are basically like the best looking people, or at least like the upper half of the best looking people from wherever their small town is, or whatever town they're from. They're all coming out here. And then you go back, and it's very eye-opening And now living in the South, I mean, it's like, fuck yeah, this is a real thing, you know? Driving through on tour, right, as you're going across the country, if you look at the places to eat off basically every fucking exit, man, I mean, it's McDonald's. Like, basically the healthiest option that you might consistently find is quote unquote healthy would be Subway, right?
Yeah,
like
Chipotle or something.
Yeah, you know, everything's just fast food chain. It's just like, of course, people are going to be obese. You're going to have an obesity epidemic in this country when, like, that's the most accessible option for food. It's quick, it's easy, you know, it's cheap, it's trash, and then it's addictive. All the product placement of like I love him having like a 2-liter
of
right
Pepsi.
of
Diet Pepsi.
the Diet Pepsi, you know, by his couch and then by his bed, and then in his little like cubby, you know, he opens it up and it's just full of
candy bars.
Mars candy bars, yeah, you know, and like, of course he stress eats and he nervous eats. I mean, clearly, you know, he like that's his coping mechanism for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. It's sad, you know, like you watch that and you're just like, fuck, dude, this is. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty accurate depiction of that type of lifestyle.
Well, I mean, I think it is. I think they probably did some research. Also, I think it's hard to not know someone in this day and age, unfortunately, who semi like that. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's not like when, like, did you ever see What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yeah.
And they put this, like, actually 450-pound woman on screen. There's no prosthetics like Brendan Fraser, right?
Yeah. There's a little bit of
complete prosthetics on everything, from head to toe, dude. Like, that wasn't his real hair.
Yeah. Was his stomach though? Was that like CGI as well? Did they kind of?
No, I think it's all.
It was all.
If it was CGI, is incredible, but that seems more expensive than just making a big suit. Because for the most part, they don't show his skin except for a couple times. Like, you just need something big enough to put a shirt over.
What I was saying is, like, maybe they made him a big suit and they basically just sort of enhanced or used CGI for like his gut that actually like hangs down like to his knees or whatever. I was like, man, that is an impressive.
Well, dude, you see that
sack of fat.
I've seen that sometimes, dude. Like, I remember growing up, there's this dude I knew in I won't say his name. He was just an old guy that I knew growing up, and he fucking had that thing where you're so fat that like the gut goes into your pants.
Yeah.
Like, which I never understood apparently until this movie, but I think it's that like it's like you literally, I have to assume it's like you get so fat the fat has nowhere else to go, right? And so it just like creates a second stomach on top of your stomach almost. And at a certain point, it just can't hang anywhere else, because then he has more fat here, and some of it's like there's almost this impression from his like sweatpants waistband,
right?
You know, like that's like permanently indented his stomach in half.
Right. Yeah.
And like, once again, you see that in real life, and I think that this is going to be a very uncomfortable film for a lot of people.
I mean,
because they know someone who like this.
And you know, that's Aronofsky's signature right there, right? He will make you king of uncomfortable. You know, he's going to make you uncomfortable with his films.
Which I'm glad he did. I was wondering if it would be like what sort of Oscar bait it was. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that like it wasn't just some inspiring bland. I mean, you would never expect that from him, obviously.
Right.
But still, you just, you know, you're not sure exactly what to expect.
Well, man, I thought the length of the movie was really good. That's like earlier when I said like I was happy it ended when it did. I didn't mean that in a knock, but it was just a sense of like, you know, I think if I was like, man, if he does take us all the way to Sunday, that could be a little fucking much. You know what I mean? Like, that just, it's like, how grueling is this gonna get? Right. If we have to endure 2 more days of this. But, you know, I thought it was a good length, and I thought like the ebb and flow of it ended up playing out pretty nicely. The arc of of the story itself. You know,
do you think there is redemption for him, or do you think he just?
Oh, man, you know, that's what I started to think. I started really thinking about maybe like the last like 15 minutes of the movie, when it kind of seemed like, all right, it's pretty clear, like it's kind of starting to like get very clear on how this is gonna turn out. I don't think so. I mean, in the sense, like, he's gonna accomplish what he wanted to, which is, you know, he's gonna be able to give his daughter all that money. You know, and as he says in the film, he just hopes to do one good thing with his life, and he views this as the one good thing. You know, he made his daughter. He's gonna be able to take care of her in the sense of he can hopefully set her up for something. You know, even because he walked out on her. But he is gonna, you know, he's doing that, right? But at the same time, it's like, man, it does really feel like you've just given up on your life, and you really sort of put a lot of other people through hell with it, even though what you went through was also, you know, pretty awful.
Well, and that's one of the things, is that there's this chain. I'm kind of torn.
There's sympathy, but at the same time, it's like, man, these are all just decisions that I think clearly even the movie sort of points out that, like, you know, you could have altered your course, you could have changed your path, you could have made different decisions.
Well, and look, so his lover and his nurse's brother and best friend's brother,
yeah,
who died, this is the pain that has caused him to eat himself into oblivion. Died in large part because of like their father's just like rampant denial and a refusal to see reality once again, right?
Yeah.
And you see that his reaction to the thing that was caused by denial is like further denial in a sense, right? Or blended with apathy, but then all like dressed up with this bow of optimism.
Right.
That's just not what I think is interesting. Is it's also not really clear. So one good thing happens because of him, he knows for sure, which is enough for him, I think, to die happy, which is that the missionary gets to go home. But then the question remains, there's this scene with the mother of his child, who he hasn't seen in years, and he hasn't seen his child since she was 8.
I thought that was a really good scene, by the way, when she finally comes into the movie and you get to meet her.
I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, and I thought their chemistry was really fucking good too, man.
Yeah, it really did seem like you could see, like, oh, she actually loved that guy, and he broke her heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then...
you felt it.
And then he let himself die because he felt guilty. And he basically accepted his role as, like, this victim of fate. And I think that, like, but when she points out, she claims that the daughter is evil. Right?
Uh-huh.
And I mean, sure, maybe she's not, but it's not really clear that she's not, because like he decides that the reason she recorded and photographed this kid who stole a bunch of money and then reported his location with his confession to the church his father runs that he stole the money from, right? It's not clear that she was trying to help him, but he just decides, like, oh, she wasn't trying to hurt him, she was trying to help him.
Right.
He decides. But like we've already established that he has this optimistic defense mechanism where he puts a positive spin on everything until he dies of eating himself to death. Yeah. So it's like very possible that like he's just given $400,000 to a total psychopath.
That's the thing, and it's like, you know, she totally blows him up on Facebook. She posts the picture of him, you know, and with a like a quite a rude remark, you know, above it.
But he's totally like weirdly okay with it because it's honest.
Right. No, for sure. You know, And then the stunt she pulls with the missionary, it does kind of seem like, again, she is a teenager. Maybe it's a phase. It's like she definitely seems kind of shitty. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it seems like he does sort of just talk himself into the fact that she did it for a good reason, to bring him home. He talks himself into it with that optimism that he, like you said, he uses as a defense mechanism, a coping mechanism, I guess, either or.
Maybe the reason that they have this political background, or just like little, once again, it's not even a background because it's just a couple times, but they have these little moments, is because it's kind of like, we're busy bickering over whatever, meanwhile people are literally dying because they're eating themselves to death, which means there's a much deeper problem in our society than the political one. There's a spiritual problem in our society, is really what he does get at. And
it's very unhealthy.
And he's right, though, in that I agree with him that there's a spiritual problem in our society. And I also like that he kind of condemns the typical, specifically Christian church.
Yeah.
I mean,
and like,
granted, the guy who wrote it is probably, I think the guy who wrote it,
like the play, because it's based on the play, which makes sense.
My phone's recording. Can you Google what was his name? Because he's probably a Christian, I imagine, if you can look him up on Wikipedia or whatever.
Samuel Hunter.
Samuel Hunter.
Yeah. And he grew up in Moscow, Idaho.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. So there's probably a very good chance that
there's some autobiographical stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Well, so he is probably a Christian. There's probably not that many Jews in Idaho, if I had to guess.
Probably so.
I wouldn't say that there's any authorial condemnation of the church from Aronofsky, really, but I would say there's this general condemnation of it, but it's a specific brand of it. Like the missionary, he's actually the only really pure-hearted person in the film. He's trying to be better. He's the only one in the film who fights his addiction.
Yeah.
Like, I think some of the other reason they had the politics is it's his friend, the what's his friend's name? The Asian lady? Hong Chau's the actress, but I think.
You're right on that. Let me see what her name is.
But like
her character's name is.
She likes trash TV. Like, she wants to watch Maury. Right?
Yeah. Liz.
Liz. So her addiction is trash TV, and she just enables him by like buying him meatball subs. You know? And it's like, look, at this point, might as well just enjoy your addiction till you die. I get it. You can be Lane Staley, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's well on that path,
But she's simultaneously abandoned the church that her brother and Brendan Fraser and her all went to, that her father's a big part of.
Yeah.
And she enables his denial to a certain degree. She never walks out on him. She never judges him.
She definitely enables him. Yeah.
Like, she does judge him, but she sees there's like this positive you see his humanity, but there's this negative that you enable him.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be able to do both.
Well, and it's also, with his character, it's sort of at a point where, is it still going, or did
it is still going? All right.
It's almost like an alcoholic, right? If they're an alcoholic at old age, or they get to a certain point where they've just drank so much for so long, it's like, hey, look, you can't just stop drinking at this point, right? Your body's going to shut down. But okay, maybe instead of drinking whiskey or scotch at 10 a.m. or noon, maybe you start out with something light. Maybe you start out with wine. Maybe you don't drink dark liquors until 4 or 5 p.m., right? Like, getting clean, kicking this, changing your lifestyle is not out of the option. Your body can't handle it.
When you do kind of wonder throughout whether he's going to choose to go to the hospital. You wonder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do.
like, is he going to choose life, or is he accepting death? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's interesting it's this. This is really interesting. Thought I just had because of that is that there's this existential spin, obviously, where it's this almost like Samuel Beckett or Arthur Miller style setup, where you're just like in one spot the whole time, and you're confronting death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's Death of a Salesman and Waiting for Godot vibes for me, and
Absolutely.
there's a little bit of A Doll's House too, but like fucking, I think that it's not that you have to accept death. Like a lot of the existentialism is like, accept that there's no meaning to life, accept that like death, there's probably nothing after it. That's really more nihilism, I guess, but still, like, it's this idea that like you have to make peace with the reality, which is that there's no meaning for you, there's no heaven waiting for you, most likely, etc. But this one's like, you have to also accept life. Like if you accept only that death is coming and that there's no afterlife, you're just consigning yourself to this morbid obesity, metaphorically. You know what I mean? Like it's a very interesting existential spin. And the mom, by the way, is an alcoholic. You're talking about the alcoholism.
Yeah.
Notably, his ex-wife is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
His daughter is a pothead. And I did like that they like totally smacked down this idea that you can't be addicted to weed.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, you got to have an honest conversation with it. I love weed. We were smoking weed right now. But this idea that, like, it's impossible to have an unhealthy relationship with marijuana is kind of insane.
Right.
I mean, you know.
Maybe the question is, like, can you not have an addiction, right? And the only character who doesn't really have an addiction seems to be
the missionary. Right?
The missionary, kind of, but he's also, what is he? Maybe he's addicted to God. Right? Like,
I mean, I guess he did. I mean, well, he did say that he was addicted to weed. Basically, he had a problem with it,
and he finishes the bowl.
He does. I mean, when she finally, you know, kind of swoops him into smoking the weed. I mean, he takes a few hits and then, I forget what he says. Or I guess they start walking around the house, and that's when he starts to open up to her a little bit. But all of a sudden, you're like, oh, dude's definitely high right now. You know, like very clearly, you kind of see a shift in his character where he's like, "Oh yeah, you're stoned now," and
the veil's lifted a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really well written movie, to be honest. Like, I wonder if it's the same as the play, verbatim or not.
I was gonna say, I'm very curious to know how close it is to the play. The guy who wrote the play wrote the movie. I would imagine it's probably fairly accurate, you know?
Right.
And then, you know, obviously when you're watching the movie and it's just set at one location for the whole thing, it's like, okay, definitely getting play vibes from this. I didn't realize it was a play, though, going in to watch the movie.
Yeah, but same. I didn't either, but I did throughout be like, well, this would make a good play. If it's not a play, they should do like a play version of this.
And it also, like, it helped, I think the idea of it helped set up a claustrophobic feel, you know? And so it helps keep you on
these tiny, dirty, dark apartments.
Yeah, the lighting of the movie, very dark for the most. Whenever, at the end, when she opens the door and the light shines in, it's finally like, oh, there is some light in this film. But it's very claustrophobic, and
it's a good post-pandemic film.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And you're trapped in the house with this extremely, extremely large man. You know, like, who up until the very end of the movie just cannot walk. You know, like without the assistance of a walker or the wheelchair.
Right.
It was a massive wheelchair. Like when he's rolling around, you know, in the living room, like between the couch and the chair. I'm very tense. You know, I mean, I think Aronofsky definitely nailed that. It's a tense vibe, claustrophobic.
Where do you think this?
Very cynical too, I think.
I actually don't think it's this. I think that there's like,
maybe it just made me cynical.
It's
maybe that's what. Like,
I think it's critical.
Yeah.
right? I think I think it does the thing that there's this reflexivity. It does the thing that it's saying society won't do, which is the thing the characters won't do, which is deal with their shit.
Yeah.
Right? And in order to deal with your shit, you have to be honest. The whole thing, he's like, say something honest. And most of the honest things are these negative things that you would never want to hear. And it's funny that he wants to hear something honest, but the whole time he's got this like false optimism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's not honest with himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think what he is happy about is that his daughter's honest. But like,
yeah, absolutely.
like I think it does turn out that she's honest, at least. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't really hide. She tells him that she gave him the Ambien. She doesn't lie. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Fucking. I think that it's critical of society because society has let itself become the society of addicts. You know what I mean? With
and it's just it's the norm. You know,
there's a spiritual torpor. And what do you think of that? Because you grew up in Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Country.
Yeah.
Fucking
the Charlie churches.
Do you think that there's a spiritual crisis, and do you think that the church is the answer to it?
No, I don't think the church is the answer to it. I mean, I think there's a spiritual crisis in the sense that a lot of people are leaving the church, and because of that, there is a vacancy in a lot of people's lives. Right? There's a void, a role that church normally fills for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't have that. So I mean, yeah, maybe you could say that's a spiritual crisis, but I don't think the church is the answer per se. I think it serves a very useful role for a lot of people. But no, I mean, I don't necessarily think if more people aren't going to church, it's necessarily a bad thing. Either. I think people are certainly still capable of being good and doing good things. And
what people do need though is community, right? And in the film, he's isolated. Everyone's kind of isolated.
I think that's almost sort of a more important note, you know. People do need community.
But you can't have community without families, and the family in this one is broken as well, right?
Right. I mean, it plays a role.
I think some people are going to read a sort of,
but I don't think his point is like God is the answer, you know, for the movie either. I
think some people will read it that way, and they will also read it that he condemns the homosexuality. I think some people who feel that way will project their own, and it's interesting that it leaves itself open to that. I'm okay with that because that means it's willing to deal in ambiguity. But I think it also does say that it's not the church. The church causes this part of the problem. You know what I mean? So your spiritual awakening has to come outside the church.
Yeah, because it's like the church almost does it to themselves. I mean, like the type of environment that I grew up in, and a lot of friends, you know, the people I knew that they grew up in, that's not a healthy environment. You know, it's like it's a you know, a lot of things just get swept under. They're not really dealt with. I think there's like a high level of shame and guilt that's sort of like implemented on people at a young age that I don't think's healthy. You know, I don't think that's...
Well, the guilt is probably what drives some of this eating.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just how like, you know, specifically with my situation, and there's a lot of people who, you know, I'm certainly not the only one, but just a very narrow-minded atmosphere. You know, I don't think that's not a healthy or sort of positive thing. And you end up just driving people, you end up isolating people more and more, and sort of creating some terrible situations, you know, because, you know, whether it's forcing someone to live a life that they shouldn't be living, you know, or they don't want to live. You're forcing someone into hiding. You're just browbeating people into thinking that they're pieces of shit, you know, regardless of like what they do. It's, you know, it's not a very healthy recipe.
When the daughter says people are assholes. But his thing is people are amazing.
And I was going to say that, but on the flip side is there are also people in my church, the community at my church, who are incredible people, right? I mean, who would go above and beyond to help someone out, to truly help someone out, not even just like thump a Bible at them. They might talk a little bit about God at some point, but I mean, they would be like, no, we're gonna try and help you with like a very real issue at hand. You know what I mean? And so there were certainly good examples that I saw, and
well, I think that's what you get from community, right? Like, you probably don't need. Do you think I don't know if you need the spiritual element in order to do that.
No, I don't think you need it either. I don't. I think
you need to drink together a lot of the time. Or I think that there is a really weird thing that is chemical bonding, right?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Where, like, let's be real, like, the original religious communities are born of, like, some, like, fucking cavemen eating some magic mushrooms.
Absolutely,
or
man.
something, and being like, dude, I think cows might be God.
Well, it's
I think the sun is God, but like whatever it is,
the shamans are just dudes in villages who are just getting high as balls and being like, I'm talking to God, and here's what he's telling me.
Look, we got to kill 200,000 people after we build a new temple. But the thing is, this persisted, which means it gave human beings who adhered to it an evolutionary advantage, right? So, like, the fact that you can form social bonds through both religion and spiritual practice, which can include meditation or psychedelia or neither. It can be contemplation.
Yeah.
But, like, almost every religion that isn't, I guess, Islam, commands you at some point to drink. Right? Like Judaism, they're like, you're supposed to drink at certain points.
I mean, the people I grew up around, they were teetotalers.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Well, these are new American. Like,
that's
You tell me Catholics don't drink?
Oh, Catholics definitely. We used to call. I think people used to call them Catholics because of how much they drank. It was like a slang term that old people in my church would throw around.
Catholics.
You get a nice little cackle out of. It's like.
Well, that's the thing is, even ones that aren't cartoonishly ridden with alcoholism, like the Catholics, a lot of religions, even if there isn't like, oh, you're supposed to drink on this day, which most of them there's this Ramadan thing where you all fast, which is going to make you all kind of delirious at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? You're still putting yourself through an altered perception or an altered mindset.
Food's absolutely a drug. You're not eating it. So, I mean, you're...
Well, and I know people who will go on fasts for the psychedelic. Like, I know this Russian lady who, like, totally believes in, like, this ancient, like, Russian, like, witchcraft shit.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, she's pretty rich, so, like, whatever. But, like...
She can afford to do that.
I don't know what's going on now that there's a war, to be honest. I haven't reached out. Fucking... But, like, she goes on fasts. She's a really nice lady, but I was like, why do you go on fast? And I was like... And she tells me that, like, it's like there's a psychedelic effect. And she does it for, like, spiritual purposes. She fasts so that she can hallucinate. Right? It's like, well, why don't you just try acid? Okay, whatever, fine. Fucking...
This is much easier.
And less time is taken, but regardless, fucking... Point is they all force you into this shared... It forces you to share an experience with someone. And that is what builds community. And... it gives you an evolutionary advantage to have religion, to have the use of chemicals and or meditation or fasting to invoke shared mindsets. And now we've come to a point where we're all just completely separated from ourselves, and so these impulses are no longer healthy. Right? Because they're not at all serving their purpose. How is he's not bonding with anyone by eating?
No, not at all. Yeah.
You know? Like, and you can bond by drinking, but according to the daughter, the mom drinks at home. Like a fish.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think he's definitely touching on the idea of isolation and what effect that has on people. I mean, and the idea of like, again, touching on addiction from that, the further you ascend, or you descend into addiction, the more you isolate yourself. Which again, Brendan Fraser's character clearly has done in the movie. And I think that's pretty much for like whatever your addiction might be. That's typically the way it works. You know, you isolate yourself.
What do you think? Where do you think this movie ranks in Aronofsky's pantheon? And what do you think his intent is with making it, looking towards the future, if any? Let's just stick with the first question, one question at a time.
I think for Aronofsky, honestly, I would put it sort of middle of the pack with him.
What's your favorite of his?
I always really liked Pi.
Yeah. Pi rocks.
You mentioned Noah. I should go back and watch Noah again.
Noah's
I also need to watch Mother again.
This is probably better than Noah.
I think it is
overall as a success. Like,
and then he did Requiem for a Dream as well.
Yeah, that's like one of my least favorite of his.
Yeah,
this is very Requiem though. There's this Requiem idea. Once again, we're tackling addiction,
definitely,
and isolation. Right,
yeah.
Like you definitely get the vibes of like Ellen Bernstein in her apartment.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's. You watch the movie and it's like this is a familiar theme of Aronofsky's.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think I would put middle of the pack. What's your favorite flick by him?
Black Swan by like a mile.
Oh yeah,
I think Black Swan
is
probably like the best movie that has come out in my lifetime.
Black Swan is great.
Or my movie going lifetime. And then I think
I would also agree with you. I would say Black Swan is number one for me.
I would then put Pi behind it.
Yeah.
But like, also I love Mother. I like all of his psychedelic stuff more than this, just because. Well, not Noah, but like, just because I think when he really takes risks with film form and just decides to go just fucking bonkers, it's fucking awesome because so few people have the fucking stones to actually do that shit.
definitely
these days. And like, so like a lot of people complain about Mother, like it doesn't make sense, or I thought the like metaphor, it's Mother Earth. It's like, dude, there's like 3 layers,
right?
And that's one of them. Maybe there's 4 layers. I'd have to think about it again. But like, there's actual motherhood. There's the fucking Mother Nature thing. There's the writer and what it means to be a writer. There's society, which is separate from the Mother Earth thing, right? And then there's this, and it's all around this idea of creation, and mothers are what create. Yeah. Right, but it addresses what does everything create? What does everything grow out of something? All in the metaphor of building a house. Like, I'm sorry, it's not a simple fucking metaphor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Anyway, so I really like Mother. I'd put this behind those 3. I like it more than The Wrestler though, and I like it more than Requiem, and I think I like it more than Noah. I don't know if I like it more than The Fountain. The Fountain is kind of like one of those things where like I respect it. I'm glad he went for it, but he just, because his budget got cut in half, like it just didn't quite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's not like what I wish about The Fountain, to randomly talk about The Fountain for a sec, is I wish they had more conquistador shit. You don't get to see like any cool like battles or like nothing really gratifying on that big budget movie sense, which it's kind of trying to be.
Right.
So I thought that was disappointing, but overall, again, and by the way, another movie about someone who's fucking dying and trying to escape death.
I think,
and is in denial.
I think for me it's probably around. I think I would probably rank it with The Wrestler as well. It's pretty close. I
haven't seen The Wrestler in a long time.
I really like that movie.
So I should.
But I've only watched it once or twice. I think I would say that I like that better than this one. But it's been a long time since I've watched The Wrestler.
I should rewatch it.
But I thought this was a good movie. Definitely didn't think it was his best movie. I thought, Fraser's performance was incredible.
Do you think he deserves? I mean, he probably does deserve an Oscar. I can't think of anyone who did a better job.
He did a great job, man.
He was always such a good actor.
Okay, that's one of the things I was thinking during the movie was like, I'm happy that he's getting his moment again, because as a child of the 90s, like, of course I fucking loved Brendan Fraser back in the day, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, dude.
But did you ever see like Gods and Monsters or like School Ties? Or like the shit where he was like young and he was like actually acting?
No, for sure, yeah.
Like,
absolutely, not just Encino Man and shit like that.
Right,
you know what I mean? Yeah, no, like
George of the Jungle.
No. Like he was a really good actor, and I'm glad to see that he's kind of having his moment in the sun again. Like it's coming back around.
Wasn't he in like, he was in Crash, and he was, which I never actually saw. And then he was in like The Last King of Scotland, good. I think too. Like he did have some like low key roles later on.
And it was Crash. It was Paul Thomas Anderson's Crash, not David Cronenberg's.
But it's not Paul Thomas Anderson. It would be much better if it was him. It's whoever the fuck.
No, that was Magnolia.
Yeah, it's another similar movie.
Yeah.
It's directed by like the dude who like he like wrote. It's not Tony Gilroy. Fuck.
Yeah,
William Monahan.
I know which one you're talking about.
Everyone's life intersects in racial harmony.
Yeah.
Oh, what a film. But like, fucking. Yeah, I think this is for sure a standout performance. Like, he went full method, full Daniel Day-Lewis with this shit. He got fat, so he's channeling some of that. And look, man, I used to be obese, technically. I don't think anyone would have looked at me and been like, that guy is obese.
No, you're
but
right.
Like, technically,
you're overweight.
According to the stats, I was obese. I was beyond that standard deviation of where I should have been.
Okay.
Whatever the actual scientific meaning of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I actually do understand like the binge eating and self-loathing elements of that, right? Like, and I think for me, because I've dealt with all that shit and like made and like found I'm healthier now than I probably ever have been, in a sense. Fucking, it wasn't like hard for me to watch it and like relive it, Mm-hmm. But I know that like if there's some people in my life who I want to see this movie, but I think it will be hard for them to watch, because if you're still struggling with that,
it's going to be a tough watch.
If you go up to a heroin addict and be like, hey, do you want to watch this movie about a heroin addict dying? They're going to be like, no.
Yeah.
Not unless it's Train Spotting.
Right.
Fucking
100%. Yeah.
So, but I like that, like, it really does. He used his platform as an auteur of the time to make a statement that I think is a statement worth making. He made the film really. It didn't overtake the film, though. You know what I mean? Like, It's not it doesn't hit me as like a moralizing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like preachy, but it does have like, people really.
I get the point he's going.
Even
for.
On the surface level, people really gotta stop beating themselves to fucking death.
Yeah,
like, this is horrible.
But like you said, I don't think he's on a pedestal with the message, right? Or like while making his point.
Yeah, I think that he's.
It's like a tasteful way.
He's empathetic. Like you identify with this character and you realize this is why I think he points out everyone else's addictions over. Oh yeah, the Linda or whatever her name is, Lisa. She's addicted to cigarettes. That's her addiction.
Liz, yeah.
Right. So there's one who's addicted to cigarettes, one who's addicted to booze, one who's addicted to weed, and then there's a missionary struggling to fight his addiction. He's the only one. But he also rejected the church and betrayed the church. But then the church forgave him, which is interesting.
That was a curveball.
Well, and so I think it's that, like, the point being like, hey, love, like, actually you're a dad being a good dad and saying it's only money.
Yeah.
Is kind of what it takes, for one. And for another, it's like, this is a guy who is so earnest in his actual attempt to better humanity. Sure, he thinks it's through saving people's souls. He doesn't understand. He's young. You know what I mean? But that's the sort of guy you want in the church.
Well, and also, like, his character, he does seem to be, I think, out of all the characters, probably the best person, right? Like, the purest character, because there's the one scene where they're basically telling him to, like, get the fuck out of his apartment. He's like, no, like, I actually want to help, you know?
Right.
You know, I'm not trying to come here to, like, thump a Bible, per se, right now. I've taken some sort of active interest in helping this man in whatever way I can. Yeah, he's a kind-hearted character. You know, he's very empathetic, and like you said, it is the type of person that's like, well, yeah, this is the type of guy you want in the church.
Well, and I like that this movie is made so that, you know, if I think that, like, the people in my family who are actually devoutly religious, be it the Christian side or the Jewish side, would both really like this movie's message, you know? And I like that because I don't like it when Hollywood plays into the partisan bullshit. Like, there's a reason religion permeated so deeply, and without going into religion, the evolution thing again, it's like everyone feels this, right? And so to pretend that it's a little bit to pretend that those people are just blanket bigots or have no sophistication, right, to their worldview is just ridiculous. There's at least 2,000 years, if not really like 5,000 years or 4,000 years of build-up in the sophistication of their religious worldview. It's just that people aren't that sophisticated, right? And so they misunderstand the religion, or they don't,
or it just gets misconstrued, you know.
Or they misuse it deliberately for their own gain or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, but I think Aronofsky, having seen like Noah, where like Noah's like a really, obviously it's a religious film.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure like what the vibe was. I think some of it's just to make religion interesting to like young people a little bit, but also I think it was a little bit to
and it's like the story's kind of crazy, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this could make a cool fucking or good movie, an entertaining movie, right? Like,
but like what it addresses thematically, that like Noah becomes like a madman in his need to like kill the baby on the ark too far.
Yeah.
And so there's this idea like, yeah, you can save the world, but you can lose your humanity doing it, you know?
Yeah.
He clearly understands that like religious zeal is taken to extremes, but that religion's very important. And I can't think of any other director really who is saying maybe Spielberg, maybe I don't know, who's really saying anything like that.
Yeah.
On his level, right? Like,
yeah.
Can you?
No, I mean, yeah, he's
like David Mamet, but like he's not on that level anyway. He's
he's not. But I mean, he's very clearly like religious, or Aronofsky's like spiritual. He's definitely spiritual.
He's eating some mushrooms.
Yeah. And he has a fascination with it. I think it probably is the idea of people just misconstruing religion, or, you know, good practices, good habits, good lessons people can take.
Well, I like that
life. It's not necessary, you know, you get those lessons through religion, but they help instill certain things in people.
Well, and I think the thing that it kind of encourages to the religious character and to the audience is that honesty is what you need. You need to be honest. Honesty is what provides actual deliverance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from that comes strength, by the way. That's how he stands, right? And I guess salvation, maybe, because he ends up on his beach. He ends up in his happy place. But, like, fucking... Jesus, that's why I don't park over there. Park over here on the streets. When the truth comes out to his dad, the forgiveness is there and he can go home. So it's really like if he was just honest, it would have been fine. And I think that there is this tendency of religion to encourage a certain sort of dishonesty, and that's part of why I think they have the homophobic element of, like, being shamed for being gay, even though you were a devout Christian. And it's like, yeah, well, this is what you want someone to lie to themselves and deny themselves love.
Yeah.
Right? You're only going to cause more denial.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like you got to be spiritual, but you have to be honest with yourself and with the world around you. Mm-hmm. And like, how many fucking movies made you think that in the past year?
Yeah, not very many. You know, I think he... I mean, yeah, like always, he offers a unique perspective. Aronofsky delivers that. So
what's your final rating to wrap this one up?
And we're doing on a scale of 1 to 5, right?
5 stars. The classic. You can do half stars though.
No, for sure. You know what? I'm gonna go straight down the middle on this one and give it 3 stars.
Really?
Yep. I give it 3 stars.
Why 3?
I don't think it was an average film. I definitely think it was better. I think it was an above average film. I think it was a good movie. But it's also not one of my favorites from Aronofsky. And the performance, I think really like the most captivating thing to me was Brendan Fraser's performance. So yeah.
Was it the best movie of the year?
Well,
I mean, no.
Well, so I guess is it considered 2022 or 2023?
It's 2022.
2022.
Yeah. It's this Oscar cycle, you know what I mean?
Well, it's up there. I will say that. I think it's up there. But I don't know that I've been blown away necessarily by any movies within this last year. Maybe I'm really stoned and I'm just blanking on it right now, but...
Let's touch that in our bonus segment.
Well, so yeah, I give it 3 stars. What do you give it?
I would give it... Dude, I think... So the way... For context, the way I have to give it in my head is like what Roger Ebert would do or something, which is just like... You have to think about, like... What is the film trying to accomplish? How well did it accomplish it? So, like, I can... For the record, I could just give a movie that I don't like that much 5 stars, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like fucking, I don't know, Sergei Eisenstein shit. Like, I don't need to ever see it again. 5 stars. There you go, Battleship Potemkin.
Yeah.
But, like, boy, is it a long, boring movie. I do like Ivan the Terrible. Anyway, fucking... That said, I'm torn whether I should give it more, but I think I would give it 4 stars.
4 stars.
I would consider giving it... It's like, do I do 4.5? Because it's like, is it one of the best movies of all time? No. Okay, so it's not 5 stars, right? But, like, it's probably the best movie of the year other than maybe The Banshees of Inisherin.
I have to see that one. I have still not seen that one. But I've heard great things about that, so I should watch that.
We'll get to that in our bonus segment. Ooh, yeah. But yeah, so I think, honestly, dude, I think I'm going to give it 4.5 just
all
because
right,
it's like,
fine,
dude,
man, 4.5,
I can't
okay.
think of a criticism of this movie. I can't think of, like, how, oh, here's a way to have made this movie better. I can't think of a performance that was lacking. Like, I thought the shots were, like, understated, but, like, there were a couple really good ones. The first couple shots of the outside were really dope. Mm-hmm. And then you're just in, like, there's this beautiful world outside of this just fucking apartment. Mm-hmm. Right? But also the beautiful world's very gray. And it's like, must be September or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
gloomy.
It's a little bit gloomy. It's Idaho. There's not. The music was good.
I really liked the music in it.
Yeah.
The guitar feedback was really cool, man. And some of the
I didn't even notice the particulars. Was there a guitar?
Yeah, man. There was some. It was some like really sweet, like ambient, very subtle, but just like ambient feedback, or like guitar sustaining a note, you know. And I was just like, man, that is such an awesome way to sort of like
raise the temperature.
Yeah, raise the tension a little bit, man. It was really cool. So I dug the score a lot.
Yeah, and so just because I can't give it out as like a film critic, I can't think of a single knock on it. I give it 4.5, maybe even 5, but like let's stick with 4.5. And then like on a personal level, like yeah, it's like middle of the pack Aronofsky for me. I think that this is him putting some Oscar money in the bank,
yeah,
so that he can go make some really bonkers shit,
some crazy shit for the next one. Dude, I would love to see some.
Like, dude, he does The Wrestler. Well, first of all, he does Pi, which is bonkers, and then he does Requiem, which is like, okay, it's flashy and it's daring, but it's very
especially for the time.
Yeah, but it's also it's edgy socially, but it's not like surreal, really. It's like everything is when they clearly define what's real and what isn't. Yeah. Right? Like, this is obviously a drug hallucination. This is not. So it's still like something that's like kind of normie friendly. Like, it's a lot of, I hate to say it, basic ass bitches' favorite movie is fucking Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of them are my good friends. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's such
your favorite movie, dude?
That's a basic fucking opinion. I've met a lot of people with it. And it's like, because it is a really good movie, but it's like, you like this movie because it's kind of within the bounds of what you understand. Yeah. Whereas movies like The Fountain, which follows it, right, are not. They're just like totally just wildly ambitious, just like literally reaching for the stars, like 2000, trying to be 2001 A Space Odyssey level of just like ambition. And then, okay, well, that didn't work out so well and was probably a nightmare, and I think might have led to his divorce. Fucking, I forget, but like, because I don't follow the tabloid shit, but like then he does The Wrestler and produces The Fighter. Here's some Oscar money, put it in the bank, and it's like, you can get Black Swan made because you've done this.
Black Swan was fucking great, man.
And you can win Natalie Portman an Oscar, but you can also make this just like insane gonzo surreal movie. Yeah. Right? It's one of the biggest rides. And then after that, it's like 2 more really wild. Like, Noah's not like what but I think a lot of people thought it was. Right. It's like a really wild movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of Freudian. It's not like I'd put The Whale right above Noah, but like, point is, I think The Whale is okay. We put more Oscar money in the bank. Yeah. And then the next one is gonna be a fucking ride.
Setting up to get real wild.
Yeah, it's gonna be a. I mean, I hope I'm right, because I'm gonna be probably just like, I'll just probably do what I did with this one, where I read nothing about it, going blind, and I think I'll just do a ton of mushrooms.
I saw the trailer. I saw like the one trailer for this that was like 30 seconds long or something. But yeah, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about this movie. It was good, man. It was solid. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, until next time.
It's a wrap.
This is Willie Boy, K-Town Tuck. Oh wait, hold on. Check this out, dude. You want to see something stupid? Check this out. Hold on. Reverb. Farewell.
Good night.
You are listening. Yeah, it's Medium Hall. Let's make it.
Hello, hello.
Cathedral. Save. Hello. Fuck you. Alright. Do you want to talk about the Banshees of Inisherin and this other movie I saw for like 10 minutes? It's just like a bonus segment.
Sure. I've not seen it yet.